2025 at 4:30 p.m. I don't see Mark yet on Zoom, but there's a chance that he might be joining us. First, I wanted to see if anybody has any public comment, anything to bring up or mention that's not on the agenda. Okay. Welcome to Tracy and Bill. Thank you both so much for joining us.
Thank you.
It's wonderful to have people interested in serving on the highest paid board in town. I think it would be helpful, I think that most of us know each other, but it'd be helpful if we go around and do introductions. I'm Jamie Balliott. I'm currently the chair. I've lived in town for a while now. I have 2 boys in the elementary school system. We're huge users of the library. As a family as a whole, I find that the library is just such an important part of our lives at this point. And everybody who has that connection with the library, whether they're very young or very old, has their own relationship, and I find that that's just so fascinating. So I love being involved as a trustee.
I'm Sherry Bryan. I moved to town in 1983. I joined the board last year. I raised my children here, and I have grandchildren who I met Jamie attending library programs with my grandchildren. I was, in my professional life, I was a public librarian. I was the director of the Brewster Ladies Library when that library was built. I was the director of the Eastham Library when we planned that building. In between that, I was a consultant and trainer on the regional level. We used to have 6 regions that delivered services to all the libraries in Massachusetts. It was academic, public, and special libraries. We had legal libraries and other, special libraries like that, business libraries. And I did that. That was the main part of my career. And it afforded me a wonderful opportunity to learn a lot and see a lot of different libraries. So I really loved it. And I love public libraries. I love that libraries are can be such a hub for the community. I grew up in a small town myself, and that's just the way I've always seen the library. I'm very happy to be here.
I'm Bill Powers. I've been here. My wife Martha and I moved here 21 years ago, and our son grew up here. And he's now in his mid-20s, out of college. So happy we moved here. And I have never been done something overtly contributing to the town, so I'm thrilled that Jamie asked me. Martha, my wife, does Exit 89, which some of you probably read, maybe you've met her. So now I get to have a little voice on town things as well at the dinner table. And I'm thrilled to be here. I've always been a big library person, just library goer and library lover, and I'm also a writer, as Martha is, and so we obviously love books, and so excited to move forward with you guys.
Tracy Murphy. I've been here 20 years, so I'm almost caught up with Bill. And I'm in the process of raising my 3 kids here. My background is in education, in high school and middle school English classroom teacher for years. And I got involved in the town through the rec department and through that committee with the hope of expanding what recreation did to include more programming. So I see this as kind of a natural transition to another place in the community where people can go to connect and learn new things and explore with familiar faces and with neighbors, and I think that's really special. And then I'm also the chair of the board at the Lighthouse Charter School, so the education angle in that programming is always, a big chunk of my brain is seeing things that way. And I'm grateful to the Snow Library. My clams list of book requests is one of my, one of my most treasured things to grab a book idea and get it on that list so that it pops up a couple of weeks later ready for me. And did all the story hours with my kids when they were little. So I share the appreciation for what libraries can mean to a community.
I'm Lindsay Goodman, and I grew up in Eastham, moved away for about 17 years, and then I brought my family back here. So same story. Been here for about 8 years with them. And let's see, my background's actually in midwifery, and so a little bit different. I don't have the library background, but I am going to be going to nursing school in the fall, so that's my newest thing. But I use the library all the time with my kids, and I use the story time all the time with the children I take care of as well. Yeah, and I'm always interested in the children's programs and helping Kim and everyone kind of come up with the next thing.
I'm Tommy Progno, the library director. I've been the director for 12 years, and I've been a reference librarian at the library and the assistant director as well. So I'm very familiar with the library, and I'm happy to offer tours of the library, Tracy, Bill, or anyone who wants them, to show you all of the, what works at the library, what doesn't work at the library, deficiencies, anything like that, where everything is. And if you have any questions at all about anything in the packets, about the finances of the library, about the running of the library or anything, please do reach out to me. I'm always happy to talk with anyone about it.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much. I think that our next item of business is an organizational meeting. Every year we go through the process of electing 4 different officers in leadership positions. I'm currently the chair. Mark is currently the vice chair. And we have enough of a quorum to take a vote on this today. And I've had conversations with the 2 people who couldn't make the meeting today, and they are fine with us moving ahead with that, so that we can keep things moving ahead. If you so vote, I'd be willing to serve as chair for 1 more year. It's a 2-year limit, and typically the person who is the vice chair steps up to be chair. But that's not always the case, and the role of the person who's vice chair is significantly less. But when the chair is out, they step in. The other 2 positions are treasurer and corresponding secretary. The treasurer pretty much does the monthly presentation on the financial summary and can be involved in anything involving treasurer type duties, but we don't really touch the budget, so that's one thing that reduces their role to a relatively small position. And then the corresponding secretary probably has the least responsibility, stuff going on. But if we do hand something to somebody, it would be the person handling that. Maybe a couple things a year at the most. Hi, Mark.
Hi,
Yeah.
How are you?
good, sorry I was late, I had some surgery today, so I'm a little hoarse. I feel like the guy in 1776 who they dragged back to sign the Declaration of Independence. Sorry, musical comedy reference.
We get it. Thanks.
I got it.
Thanks for joining us. We haven't done that much. We just went through and did introductions, but you know everybody, which is great. So I would if we start with the chair's position, I would entertain a motion on the.
Don't
on
you
that
mean a
position.
nomination?
A nomination.
Yeah, I would like to nominate Jamie
I'll
as the chair.
second it. Do we have, is our recorder recording?
Yes. Darcy is.
Yeah, Darcy could not be here this evening, but she is going to watch the video to take the
Oh, I
minutes
see.
from
Okay.
it, so.
Okay. So I guess the second, do I then say, does anybody else want to be nominated? Or do we do the vote on?
I think there's a second, so you need someone recommends and.
We
there's
did
second.
get a second, yeah.
Okay.
I
then
seconded.
But then do we allow for somebody else?
Discussion, maybe.
For
A discussion afterwards, but.
Sure. Does anybody want to say anything?
Thank you, Jamie.
We're glad you're willing to do it another year.
Thank you. Thanks for trusting in my
I
abilities.
think you're doing a great job.
Thanks. Okay, any more discussion? How about we take a vote? All those in favor of me? I guess I'll vote for myself. So we got 6-0. Okay, moving on to the vice chair. Currently Mark. Mark, are you interested or willing to serve again in this position?
I'm willing to serve again.
Okay,
I'll nominate Mark for vice chair.
okay,
I second it.
great. Any discussion or comments? Seeing none, we'll take a vote. All those in favor? Okay, so Mark votes for himself too, so that's 6-0 again. Thank you, Mark.
That's allowed, right?
Yes.
Yep,
Yes.
even presidents do that.
Oh, okay.
Alrighty, so the next is the treasurer position. Is anybody interested or willing to serve as treasurer?
I'll do it if I can help.
Okay, great. So I need a motion.
I move that Bill Waters.
Powers.
Be elected treasurer.
Okay, and a
Is it a
second.
one-year term or a two-year term?
It's also a one-year term.
Okay.
I second that.
Alrighty, great. Any discussion? You'll be flying by the seat of your own fire pants.
Yeah, that's okay.
very
I'm
good.
ready.
This is pretty much just handed to you.
Okay.
All right, so we'll take a vote on that. Everybody signify by saying aye. Okay,
Aye.
so we're gonna be 5-0-1. Is that okay? You're gonna abstain?
Me?
Yeah.
Can I vote for myself?
You can.
Okay.
All right, so 6-0. And then last, corresponding secretary. Tavi, can you remind me, was it Pam who was the secretary last?
Pam was the corresponding
Okay.
secretary.
Is anybody willing to serve in that position?
I'm happy to do it.
Okay, great.
So I'll
a motion?
nominate Lindsay.
Okay, and a second?
I second.
Any discussion? Alrighty, so those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
So we've got 6-0 again. I know technically with Mark, we're supposed to be going around and saying our names, but we didn't start that process, but,
I'm happy to say I vote for Lindsay, Bill, and Jamie.
alrighty.
In
Thank you.
retrospect. And myself, I guess.
Okay, all right, so moving on from that, the minutes that were inside the package are not the minutes that we have currently. I made a mistake and forgot to do my general edits that I do ahead of time this month, and so I went back and I came up with some edits, and Tavi has copies of those. For anybody who wants to see it, it was just mostly structural comments, nothing really enormous, a couple of grammar edits. So I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes, and it's okay, is it okay for Bill and Tracy to vote on the minutes even though they weren't here?
No.
No, in that
No,
case,
yeah, I
no.
think no.
Just if you're previously a trustee and you missed it, okay.
So do we have enough people to vote?
Yeah, our
We have-
quorum's
We have 4, so we do have a quorum. Okay, so a motion to approve,
I so move.
okay. with
I'll
that-
second that,
Second.
Lindsay.
Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye. So
Aye.
that's
Aye.
4-0, you a yes?
Yes.
Okay, so 4-0, thank you. Okay, so annual town meeting discussion. This is a conversation that would be much easier the night afterwards. So my memory might be a little bit Swiss cheese on this, but essentially what the library dealt with this year was an amendment to Article 18, which is the capital improvements plan. A resident indicated that it looked like that potentially Snow Library and the fire station might be asking for construction money at the same time, which is true and not true. I think the most important thing for me to say is that the capital improvement plan, as mentioned at town meeting, is a fluid document that changes all the time. Projects are on it, projects are off it. The plan gets amended every year. In my experience, especially with the Snow Library stuff, we've been very thoughtful in not bumping it up against other projects, making sure that projects are spaced. And while this amendment was something that the trustees didn't jump to the floor and oppose, it's certainly something that we didn't think was necessary because we would have made changes to the capital improvement plan for this year relative to what's happening with the fire station. fire station decided not to go for construction money, so they were only going for design money, so essentially that slows down the pipeline of large projects. So fiscal year '28 is off, and fiscal year, '27 is off, and fiscal year '28 is potentially on, but the only hiccup that I could see happening is if the fire station design process moves very fast and they go to fall town meeting for construction money, that the library, you know, could potentially ask for design money at fiscal year '27, which is 2026 spring. Am I right on that?
Yes, you are.
Yeah, because the capital improvement plan does not come to fall town meeting.
Okay. And so that's the only thing, and you know, I spoke with our liaison about this, Kevin, and essentially if we need to make an amendment, we make an amendment and we explain why we're making an amendment, and, you know,
Yeah, would
rational
that
heads
come from the
will.
library board, not the town meeting floor?
Right, the trustees would, through the select board, would put that together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
And we would have stuff done ahead of time, we'd have enough time to plan that. So is there a chance that the speed at which the fire station design, you know, goes at light speed? Maybe, but you know, you just don't know, because building designs do take many months to do. And, you know, I think that the leadership in town government knows that. It doesn't harm us per se, but it was definitely a slightly frustrating experience. There were multiple frustrating things that happened, you know, and they essentially cut off the whole regular capital plan at the knees and then had to put it back together. But that's the beauty of town meeting, right? Any comments or thoughts on what you all experienced?
Mark has his hand up.
Go ahead, Mark. Thanks.
So, yes, I was disappointed, but what was on the capital improvement plan was the whole thing. Are we not allowed to break out the design piece and go forward with that, just so we can finally get people to vote yes or no on where the library's going? I find that kicking the entire thing to '27 just kicks limbo further down the road, as opposed to saying, this is where the town now sits on building a new library.
Well, I think now that the town has taken the position that they don't want to do design and build at the same time, what we would be asking for would be broken into two pieces. So it would be design first. And
So we could stick to our original plan of doing it next spring?
The design.
the design piece.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing that we'd need to do is we would need to, and we'd have to talk to town council about this, whether we have to make an amendment to the capital improvement plan so that there was an act of town meeting floor, or whether, you know, it's just something, is it something that could just be changed by the capital improvement?
It was
process?
changed for the firehouse within the committee.
Right, but
You don't need to do anything with the capital improvement plan.
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
not.
That's kind of a pie in the sky.
right.
Yeah, it's not a voted document.
But what the amendment did is it said you cannot ask for this before this. And so what I'm wondering is, do we need to do something to undo that?
I thought,
I don't think so.
I understood part of the confusion around that to be that that was an unnecessary
Yes.
amendment
Yes.
because we're gonna ask for things as funding or other things fall into place anyway. So we didn't have to go through the process of amending to take something off, because if
That's-
reality doesn't
yeah.
pan out for a plan to happen at a certain time, it's gonna come off anyway. Right,
And-
so I think that was it, that
Right.
there's more flow than we would have thought there was based on what we saw at the meeting.
And
More
potentially
flow.
we amended the current plan, but it doesn't have anything to do with the next plan. Do you know what I mean? Like it's then replaced with the next one.
Right. That's right.
Yeah. So you know, all eyes will be on what the pace is that the fire station is moving at. I agree with you, Mark, wholeheartedly about being discouraged about that, and also the fact that, you know, there's direct competition from a very large ask for 40 million for the sewer project at the same time, which was approved with not that much discussion. And you know that when we go up there with the library project, that we're gonna have to have a lot of counter to what people will get up there and say, you know, this isn't necessary. It'll be very important for us to be very prepared when we get up there.
So we need to make the case in a way that it wasn't really made at town meeting when this came up, about the urgency of getting the new library going.
Well, I think a communications campaign will be a substantial part of what we do once we know what our countdown is like.
What our timing is,
Yeah.
right. Because really, it's not a discussion. In the two towns where I moved library projects forward, building projects, it has not been a discussion on the town meeting floor. There has been some discussion, but not much. Because if you do your homework and you prepare everyone ahead of time, and everyone has heard about it long enough,
Yeah.
then actually what I have found is people assume it's gonna happen.
Well, and we experienced that with the feasibility study. You know, we had a substantial level of interaction with the public, and, you know, it ended up just being a voice vote relatively quick. Mark, did you have anything else to add?
Well, I was gonna say that it occurred to me that when we had the election last year, Betsy Sorensen, who also ran, had said, I believe, to Joan, that she'd be interested in working with the trustees or the library in some capacity. And I want to say, with regard to the building, and it might be a good time to reach out to her if that conversation didn't occur with Joan, to see if we could get her involved. I think she has a good connection to the community that might be worth tapping into. Just a thought on that.
Okay. No, I definitely think that's, because she was very engaged and went through that process, and it'd be good to have a closer, to revisit stuff with her. I'd be willing to add her to my list of people to reach out to. Does anybody have anything else they want to add about that topic? Okay, so let's move on. I'm going to talk about a couple different things. The first thing I'm going to talk about is a perennial topic. Do we, as a group of trustees, want to continue to meet in town hall, or would we be interested in ever shifting our meetings back to the library itself? There's pros and cons for each. Zoom participation is much, much easier via this building. We're able to lure in town officials easier when we're in this building for participation in meetings. Although, as you see, we don't tend to draw more than 4 or 5 people at the most for our general meetings.
But they're critical people.
Absolutely. But we can make sure that it...
I think the people who are here today would be here if it was at the library.
Maybe. I think that there's technology that exists at the library for us to potentially do a Zoom setup through the equipment that the Friends of Snow Library has invested, but it would take multiple steps to figure that out, a fair amount of communication in terms of what the staffing would be like to do that, because it takes 1 to 2 people to bring everything out of the closet and set it up. But in my mind, meeting at the library is part of the library trustees' experience, and, you know, drawing more people into the library and utilizing the library versus the jam that we have at town hall, where it's more difficult to meet because there's such competition for time slots. So there's no requirement that we have to meet at one location or another. The standard requirement right now is that we just have to generate detailed meeting minutes and submit them. Thoughts from trustees?
Right, so we would go from having a recorded meeting, which in today's meeting's particular case, that's helpful to Darcy to do the minutes. Not that that should be a driver, but that is helpful. But detailed minutes would of course be a requirement. So that's there. I can't remember why we moved to town hall a few years ago, what the driver was. I mean, I know the benefits, but I can't remember what the particular driver was.
That was so the meetings could be televised.
Yeah, and we were at the beginning stages of the new library project, and we wanted to be slightly more engaged with the public relative to their ability to do Zoom, but that was before the Friends of Snow Library made their investments for
New equipment.
camera equipment in the in the crane room itself. So if we were to go to the Friends and say, could you work with us and help us and have one of your volunteers do a setup, and maybe potentially staff could also help.
Well, I mean, the issue with it is the Friends would have to do it. I mean, there isn't anybody on staff who could do it. I mean, that's the whole
Right now.
reason for the problem. And when I brought up the issue, and we didn't make a decision about it, but Ellen said something about could the Friends member be compensated for it? So there isn't anything built into the budget for that.
So
Just
that's-
like there isn't anything built into the budget for staff being there to do the meeting either.
Have you ever thought of the idea of having staff involved in that and having an additional allotment to your staff, or is that not something you've ever?
Well, but it's so we would probably need another staff member. We certainly would have to add hours, and I can't just add hours to anyone.
No, I understand.
So,
I just wondered if it's something you've ever considered.
I mean, my plan was that along with, and I haven't discussed this with anybody, but I mean, if at some point when we get the new library, there would need to be a full-time programming person, definitely. And the reason I haven't done that right now is because we only have the one room.
Right.
And with the Friends having their programs, I mean, a full-time programmer really wouldn't have anything much to do. So we have a part-time programmer, but part of that would be operating the equipment, or at least exploring what it would take to have someone operate the equipment.
Okay. Anybody else have any thoughts?
Well, a lot of libraries have used the model of transitioning the reference position into a technology librarian, because so much of reference involves being online now. And so often, the reference librarian becomes the library's person who manages the technology. And that might be something that the library might think about when they're hiring again, and they can change the job description.
Well, the problem is though, we would need another person because we have our reference librarians, we have the 19-and-a-half-hour person, and they're scheduled at a certain time. We have the 35-hour-a-week person scheduled at a certain time. So if they're working other hours, that would involve, like if the reference person or the tech services person goes in there, that means the reference desk would be unstaffed. That would mean there'd only be one person available in the library to deal with patrons at that time, so.
And I don't really think I want to wade into the hours and the stuff that you oversee is really not our responsibility, but it's just something to consider relative to the change. So anybody else have any thoughts about staying here or having meetings at the library?
I've always liked the idea of the board meeting at the library. I think, I agree with you that there's a lot of value in having our meetings broadcast and in having the selectman liaison. It'd be easier for them to come to our meeting. I do like having a meeting in the library, though. It seems odd to me that we're not in the library.
Sure.
I agree. I feel the same way about it. I would like to be in the library for these meetings. I guess we wouldn't be in the trustees' room because
No.
that doesn't have the capabilities.
Well, and it also, the reason we got out of there, where it was in Marion Crane Room, is because I found out during the pandemic it violates open meeting law. Because the room is not large enough, and I actually contacted the Attorney General about it, and when I gave them the dimensions of the room, they said, no, that's not, because if someone wanted to attend the meeting, I mean, if there were people who wanted to come, you're not allowed to say, oh gee, we'd love to have you, but unfortunately, we don't have the room. That's violating the open meeting law. If a person with disabilities came, they wouldn't be able to get into the room, they'd be out in the hall. That violates open meeting law as well. So that room is out as far as a public meeting now.
Okay.
The Friends Board has been meeting at the Marion Crane Room.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that makes sense, the only place that we'd be able to do Zoom and video.
Right.
Can we do video? Would we be able to still
If a member of the Friends were up, yes.
set that up? Okay.
Anybody else?
Mark has his
I've only
hand
been
up.
on the board for 20 minutes. Oh, sorry. And now I'm interrupting.
No, it's okay, go ahead.
I
Go
think
ahead.
I am a little, I would proceed with a little caution about losing the Zoom access and the video access. I think it just keeps, I think the committees that are on, that have their meetings on Zoom and have their meetings here are just a little more on the radar. I mean, I'm thinking about the regional school committee, and we don't really know when, you know, like they meet on a schedule, but I'm not totally clear when it is or where they're meeting or how to find the recordings. And I think you can lose a little bit of visibility, and as we head into a big project, that would, I would want to make sure that we're trying to get back on Zoom or get into recordings in order to bridge that.
Yeah, we could always ask the Friends to give us money so we could pay the lifelong learning people to do the program.
I mean, you laugh about it, but that could be something that we could talk to the Friends about.
Yeah.
And see what they say. I do agree with you at that, about that point, that Zoom has become much more of an integrated component. You know, the Orleans Elementary School Committee meets in this building. Where does the regional school committee meet? Do they meet up in Eastham?
I believe they're at Lower Cape TV
Oh,
on Namescake now, but that's new. They've kind of bopped around, I think, since COVID.
Oh, wow.
that's interesting, and they could meet in any of the host towns too,
Yeah.
Or any of the schools,
or any of the schools, yeah.
or the
Sure.
regional building.
Bill?
I-
Hold on
Go
just a
ahead,
second.
Mark, yeah.
Mark?
To Tracy's point, I also think that you miss the nuance of the discussion when it is just typed minutes, not video minutes. And I may be the only one in our group that does this, but we certainly go back and watch videos of various meetings that are of interest to us. The whole planter issue was fine viewing, that one thing's on our Netflix queue, the other one, to watch that in retrospect. So I think you miss that. I was just gonna say, this is an interesting thing to think about. I think we need more information before making a move. Interesting to talk about. One thing that occurred to me that no matter where we are, but I think of it looking at this room from my vantage point today, is it'd be nice if we could get some kind of banner that would be behind us that said Snow Library, about the size of the screen that's behind Bill and Tracy, that really says who we are at that meeting. Otherwise, it's just kind of a room with people.
We have one of
My
those.
thought.
Yeah, we do. We could set up one of our two banners every meeting, although it might be complex with their hanging system. But we
Yeah, I
can
don't know
figure
how
it
we
out.
set it up, but we could figure it out.
Give permission
We could get a
afterwards.
smaller one.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I think that would be really a good idea.
So you like the idea of staying in town hall?
For the moment before we do some more investigation.
Okay, yeah, I don't think a decision today.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say, again, I've only been here on this body for 25 minutes, but I wanted to say that driving over today, I was actually thinking, because I didn't know that there had been a time when you met at the library, so I was just thinking, God, that's a good idea. They kind of are at a little bit of distance from the part of town that they're overseeing. And it's probably very subtle, but to be inside the building that you're making decisions about, I don't know if that's as potentially helpful.
Yeah, okay. So go ahead.
I would say
Thanks,
that I'd be happy to present that to the Friends, and I think that's a good idea. That equipment is wonderful over there. And it's there, and it's in the library.
Sure.
So that solves your problem if you can get somebody to run it for you.
Right, and it was a substantial investment, and the library said yes to taking that in. You know, I think that there's ways that we could improve that partnership. I did ask staff for Channel 8 earlier today whether there was a ability for the town to somehow tap into the Zoom feed. So if we were logged in on Zoom at the library and we were live on Zoom, is there a chance that they could then somehow broadcast that at previous dates, tie into that video, utilize that video?
They should
I
be
mean-
able to.
I mean, it's something that, you know, with with the speed of broadband that we have now in town, it's something that's potentially doable. It's just a bunch of steps.
They replay lifetime learning. You can redo lifetime learning anytime as long as you have
The Zoom connection.
the link.
Right.
I don't know if that's the same thing you're talking about.
Yeah.
Right. I am essentially, it would be them then tying into that Zoom connection too.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll continue to work on it. Thanks for talking about it. I remember when we first moved over a few years ago, it was a little weird because I was so used to going to the library. So I'm gonna skip the communications efforts in the near future for next month. I want to do a little bit more digging before I bring that up as our topic, and we spend a little bit more time talking about other stuff. I'm going to jump to the financial report and have Tavi talk about it this month to give Bill a little bit of exposure to see how fast he goes.
And Bill, I'm happy to answer any questions you have about it. It basically is, we,
It's inside your paper.
what we do is.
The one that had the paperclip. On the back of one of the pages,
Yeah, it's about 4 pages in.
I think. It's not the back.
No, it's in a packet, so.
No, I don't know that yet.
Oh, for here.
Here, we can share this one.
Okay, yeah.
You sure?
I think it will help you enormously to
Yeah,
look at
thank
that
you.
while he talks about it.
So this is prepared by the principal clerk and I, and what it gives is a summary of everything here. So, and what I'm going to be saying is basically what the treasurer says at every meeting. So, there's nothing really to report. We're on target as far as salaries go. The utilization is 87.7%. And as the next to the last month, because these are the May numbers because we're in June right now, so the June numbers haven't been reported yet. So we should be at 91%. We are at 88.7. We've had vacancies, so that's what the cause of that is. That's why we're not right on target. And then for our expenditures in the operating expenses, we are at 86%. However, we are concentrating within the next few weeks to get that number up. We have a lot of bills that are coming due, so we're planning on getting a little higher on that. But we certainly are well within our target amount. For the Friends, the expenditure is $1,656.73. That was for the New York Times subscription to the newspaper, for magazines, and for the copier fee. The Friends pay for the copier, the public copier. And you'll notice, though, that the utilization is at 103.8%. So we are in the red by $1,575.02. However, the only number that matters is the bottom line, because those particular items, the books and materials, children's and other programs, and museum passes, those are just categories that we and the Friends have talked about in order to put things into categories, but we're still within the amount that we have there, so we're still okay. Our bottom line is the available funds, $2,325.64. Then the next group down, the revolving funds, there's $802.30 spent out of state aid for earbuds. Those are for the playaways and audios. And stationery with envelopes. We had to get new library stationery. For the contributions account, $632.60 was spent on wireless hotspots. That is a monthly recurring charge. And then we received $180 in just general contributions. The H.H. Klein Foundation, $73.79 in expenditures for a wooden play set and plastic bins. And nothing was spent out of the Marion Crane Gallery account. Cummings Special Collection account, we've $52 in deposits. That's from the patrons purchased booklets and postcards. And then there was no expenditures or deposits for the Leslie Pike Foundation. And then at the bottom, the miscellaneous trust funds. So there's a whole group of trust funds, and that's something also I can go over with you, the number of trust funds, and I can give you a trust fund printout. In fact, I probably will. It's probably a good idea for me to do that, to provide all of you with that. Periodically we do that, so it gives you an idea of the trust funds we have and how much is in there. So I will do that for the next meeting. So we have the Anslo, from the Anslo Trust Fund, $450 was spent on a Melville play, and from the Telfair Fund, $300 for a music concert, so that's where the expenditures in the trust funds of $750 in total came from. And there are no made deposits because the interest numbers have not been received yet. That lags behind usually a few months, and we
Are
get that.
these trust funds managed by the town?
Yes,
That's what I thought.
yes.
So they don't have the interest?
That's correct, yes. And when they have their money, when they have the amount, it's put in there, and then we can put it in there. We access it through Munis. And that's really all, unless anyone has any questions.
Have you asked them for those numbers from April?
Yes, they're not available yet.
Okay, any other questions for Tavi?
I have one. Under contributions, gifts, and then you read out the figure 180 under deposits. Is that the total given?
That is
In
the
that
total
period?
for May, yes.
Oh, just 1 month?
1 month.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
Okay.
and it's an aggregate.
Okay.
Usually, if it's a large amount and it's one donation, I will usually specifically report on it. All of the people who make contributions get thank you letters that we
Okay.
write to them.
Okay. Great. Thank you, Tavi.
Yeah, thank you. And again, Bill, I'm happy to go over this with you,
Okay, thank you.
any questions you have.
Tavi, do you mind talking for a couple minutes about anything you want to highlight in your report? And then the federal funding cuts, and then we can talk about the odor issue.
Okay, well, there's nothing, unless you have any questions, there's nothing in my written report that I have to add, so I'm more than happy to move on to the funding cuts. So, just a very small summary. So, as I'm sure you've all heard by now, so on March 14th, the federal government, in trying to reduce to the maximum extent consistent with applicable laws, they essentially shut down the Institute of Museum and Library Services. That's the only federal agency that provides funding to libraries and museums across the United States. So, as a response to this, afterwards, attorney generals from 21 states filed a lawsuit. And then on May 13th, Rhode Island District Court Judge John J. McConnell issued an injunction to stop dismantling the IMLS department. In the meantime, during this period, most all the employees were no longer working in the department. So they have been brought back because there was an injunction issued. However, there was the federal administration, however, challenged the injunction. And so we're waiting for all of that to work out. In the meantime, some staff have come back pretty much to oversee grants and so forth. However, as the MBLC director pointed out, because they were gone for a period of time, they can't just walk in and resume where they left off. It's kind of like when the library was shut due to COVID. When, 2 months at least, by the time we started coming back in, you just can't come back as if it were just a weekend. So, there is some of that needs to go on. So positions have been recalled, there's grant processing going on, but the Trump administration has appealed the injunction to seek to continue to pare down. And in response, the Board of Library Commissioners felt that they really needed to prepare going into FY26 with no federal funding. And so they wanted to make sure that there were a couple of things that they didn't want to lose, and one was the Commonwealth Catalog, which is the interlibrary loan module. That's probably the most heavily used subscription by That's by the MBLC. And so they wanted to make sure that was in place, and thankfully it is. And they wanted to make sure that the ebooks, the statewide ebooks, were also going to be maintained. They did make cuts to them, however, they are combining with the Massachusetts Library System, MLS, to fund that. So while there was a little bit of a decrease, so it was at 2.8 million spent on it, and it's now at 1.17 million. The reduction is not that significant, or let's put it this way, it would have been a lot more significant if they tried to divert their funds to other things and not work with MLS to provide the statewide ebooks. So unfortunately, the number of databases, though, that they have eliminated are quite significant. And unfortunately, they're all the ones that we use, that our patrons use. All of the Gale in Context, I use them all the time. The ones that are retained, a lot of them are for students, for school students. So the good news is that our students who are using them, they will still have access to some of these, like the Britannica Library. They did retain the Gale Academic one file collections because a lot of the material is from some of these others that were eliminated. So they felt that by keeping that, they could still provide some of that content. Our patrons don't have, they did discontinue transparent languages, which is online learning of new languages. However, the good news is we, Snow Library, pay for a subscription to Mango Languages. So we do have a language learning database. And that's the latest update. There usually is an update once a week. Yes.
I have a question. Is CLAMS considering doing any joint purchasing of some of the databases that the MLS is?
They haven't talked about it yet, but there is a membership meeting, an annual membership meeting, in fact, next week. And so the topic may come up. And so I'll definitely report on that if there is.
Great. I know, Tavi, you've put a couple of summaries into the Wowberry. I think that it's time to put one more in that details those cuts for next week, letting people know. And I think that it might be pertinent for you to put whatever you write for Wowberry and have pieces of that go on to Facebook and pieces of that go on to paper that's right at the checkout desk so that people see that as well.
Okay.
Because we want to make sure we get the word out relative to the cuts. So my understanding is that no date has been set for their appeal.
No.
The federal government's appeal. And I know that some of the court cases have moved a little bit farther along and have been, injunctions have been held up as continuing to meet those criteria, and then they're being appealed again. So this is a process that's going to take a long time. But
I was on a community chat just yesterday afternoon at 3 o'clock, and there was not any more information on that. It's just right now, there was the injunction, and then there was the appeal, and they're working through that right now.
But it's clear that the federal government is trying to continue to make cuts to circumvent that judge's decision, and that's just, it's just maddening to me that they're doing that in the way that they're doing it and picking away at other bits and pieces. Anybody else have anything they'd like to add or questions for Tavi? Mark?
Tavi, I was wondering, has Kim reached out to the elementary, middle, and high school librarians to make sure they're aware of these cuts? Particularly research for the students. I realize we're going into summer vacation, but so there's still a little bit of time to at least get the word out.
I will talk to her tomorrow about it.
I mean, there might be a direct connection for the elementary school. It might be a little bit different for the middle school and the high school, but.
And the one thing I don't have this fully formed in my mind, if a patron raised a complaint, you know, here's who you, having a little card that says, here's who you contact. Of course, it's your state representative or whoever, so it's not going anywhere. But if, you know, if people wanted to know, where do I vent, where do I complain, instead of us, you know, throwing up our hands and saying, well, this is all we can do, at least getting people to share that information. I don't know if there's a way to have a, here's how you contact.
Well, why don't I put that at the desk when I put
Sure.
that
When you
other
list the,
information there?
cuts, you could list the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There used to be a link on the on the Mass Library Association.
Yeah, I had it in the Wowberry newsletter, the blurbs that I wrote.
You did, yep.
Yeah.
That's great.
Or you could just have a stack of pieces of paper so that people who read what's up there can then take a piece of paper with the contact information.
Or encourage them to take a photo and save the paper.
Yep. Mhm. Thanks, Mark. Okay, so now on to the most exciting development this week. I'll tee it off just a little bit. There's been some reports that the subsurface sewer system pump station is putting out some odors that are unpleasant. It's something that, you know, the system is relatively new. It's starting to move more material than it has because there's a lot more connections to it. There haven't been a whole bunch of connections in that immediate area, but there's definitely been businesses that are continuing to connect as required. Tavi, I spoke with Joan, Mark and I have talked about this, and Tavi and I talked about it. I reached out to Kevin Galligan earlier yesterday, and he immediately reached out to the operator, the company that manages the waste management system in New Orleans is a private company, and they, within a really, really short period of time, the head of DPW, Rich Waldo, and what's the gentleman's name?
Daniel Sullivan Zenos.
Okay. We're at the library meeting with Tavi on it, so it was just within a couple of hours of, and Tavi, I'll send it over to you because you've been out there with staff too.
Yeah, so what happened is the first that I heard of it was Joan had said there's a terrible sewer-type odor coming from the village green. I went out there and I smelled nothing at that time. Another staff member went out and smelled nothing. However, another staff member who was there said, I have smelled it. Another staff member had said when I was taking a walk after work one evening and I wanted to go into the pollinator garden, I went there and I stopped because there was this very strong sewer-like odor coming out of it. So I called Ron Collins, and he said that from that area, there really shouldn't be anything coming from there because the vents are up on the hill. So subsequently then, another staff member and I walked up the hill by where the generator is, where the vents are, smelled nothing. However, in the meantime, Jamie reached out to Kevin Galligan, and then I went down, and Rich Waldo, the DPW director, was there along with Daniel Sullivan Zenos from Veolia. And we came to the conclusion, because I did smell a faint odor coming from those metal plates, but very faint. I mean, it was hard to detect. So the conclusion they came to is the carbon filtration system needs to be adjusted. And so they've made adjustments to it, and so we're considering the problem to have been resolved, at least for now. However, both Rich and Dan had said that if staff or patrons report any more of these odors, or if I notice any, to reach out to them immediately, and they will explore the situation. Veolia is there at the library, checking it every day. They're there on a daily basis. So I hopefully this is good news, and they've made the adjustment to the carbon filtration, and so we should hopefully not have any more odor.
Okay. Any comments or questions? Great. hopefully the problem is fixed.
Yeah.
Because it's not something that we really want happening in that area for sure. Okay, so Mark, would you like to talk for a minute or two about the Arts Week review, or would you like to?
Yeah, no, certainly. It occurred to me that when I saw this calendar for Arts Week and saw all that was going on and saw how the library was a location for a lot of things naturally during Arts Week, that assuming that it's going forward in future years, that it would be great for us to have a discussion with the Arts Week people. I know the woman who spearheaded it this year and didn't reach out yet, I wanted to have this conversation, that we should see if we could somehow get more of a prominent space on the organizing, either on the committee, but certainly our name mentioned on it, because our space was used. But it also occurred to me that it might be good, again, to have us prominently featured in this, as I understand, a very successful activity, that it might be good to block that week in the Crane Gallery. Now, I know that it overlaps, I believe, with the last week of Lifetime Learning, but maybe Lifetime Learning could shift its start date back a week, or do one less week, but I think it would be great if we could block the week until we know more about what would happen in 2026. So I wanted to bring that up.
Tavi, what do you think about that in terms of our ability to block off space?
I can bring it up to, at the Friends meeting, to Ellen Burley. I don't know how far, they plan far ahead. I mean, I believe their fall is already booked already. So definitely something that I would want to mention at the next meeting.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be the whole week either. I would think it could be a couple of afternoons of the week or something like that, so it doesn't, it isn't a complete conflict with the lifelong learning.
Well, we did have a couple of events in there that were, related to that.
But I think increasing the partnership is definitely a good idea,
Yeah.
Mark.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So go ahead and reach out and, I think that if.
I will definitely do that. I just think it's so critical, and again, if we could have our name on it
Yeah.
and show once again that the library isn't just about books.
Right.
And the space isn't just about books. It's what is essential right now.
Yep. Definitely. Okay, thanks. And then turning it over to Pat to talk about the Friends of Snow Library monthly report.
Okay, the financial report for July 2024 to April 2025. The gross year-to-date profit was about $151,800. The year-to-date capital campaign expenses for video and posters was about $500. And year-to-date contribution expenses were about $50,600. The year-to-date operating expenses were about $36,300. And year-to-date net income was about $64,400. The Friends made $84 in profit from a raffle held during the Cherry Blossom Festival on May 10th. And we raffled off 3 H.K. Cummings prints and 3 children's books donated by C. Howell Books. The board voted to pause membership in Philanthropy Partners Cape Cod and Islands for a year since our capital campaign for a new library is on hold. Lifetime Learning. The final totals, there were 486 participants who registered for over 1,436 courses during the winter-spring session. One class had 99 people registered. Other news, the Friends Major Donor Party will be held at CHO tomorrow night from 5 to 7. And we are again holding the Donald W. Baker Poetry Celebration in collaboration with NRMS on June 10th at 6 p.m. And this year, Jerry Greiner paid for the 19 student poems to be bound in a booklet for the poets and the teachers, and a small ensemble of orchestra students will provide music at the beginning of the celebration. The trustees are invited to come. The Friends are still looking for a vice president. If no one currently on the board wants the position, and also they need a member at large.
Great. Any questions for Pat? Okay, anything else that anybody would like to bring up before we adjourn? Alrighty. Motion to adjourn, I'll entertain.
So moved.
Okay, a second?
Second.
Thank you, Lindsay. All in favor? Great. Thanks so much. Good night, Mark. Rest up.
So Julian, from what you're saying, that you want to be going forward with considering the